Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the EEARSS podcast, produced here at Terrier TV and at Titusville High School. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Good evening. How are you guys doing?
Are you Mr. Rogers?
It's whenever we were fixing to, me and Bill were getting everything together today. I told Bill, I'm like, I haven't heard from Cindy this afternoon, which means Cindy is probably on her way here, and I don't want to text her because I don't want to be that guy to be like, so are you gonna be able to, are you stuck at work? Are you gonna be able to make it? And I was very nervous about the whole thing.
He went over it and over. Should I or shouldn't I?
I'm like, I don't want to make her mad at me.
Should I send her a text? Should I not send her a text?
Running out of the office was like the worst game of Frogger. I was like dodging people coming at me and then my coworker, who knows why I leave on time on Fridays, I hear her yell, "Leave her alone, she's got her podcast."
So I'm like, okay, I'll send it to her and I'll put like a heart at the very end, so she knows it's like lovingly sent.
But he sent that emoji thing. You were probably driving, so you didn't notice it. Did you see it? Was something like a boxing ghost.
My phone tried to read it out loud, and it didn't know what to call it.
Oh,
That's so hilarious. Yeah. You saw it, though. It's like a little ghosty looking contraption that's putting hearts back and forth. I'm like, oh, it's cute.
I said it's violent. It's just violent.
I thought it really conved the message.
Okay.
You're coming, right?
Yes.
No, see, that's what I didn't want it to be.
And pummel you.
That's what I didn't want it to be. I was like, how do I nicely say, I haven't heard from you. I hope you haven't forgot about us.
Yeah.
But I know she hasn't, but how do I nicely say?
You say it just like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, next time I'll say that. Cindy, here's a nice message that we're hoping you didn't forget about us. And we're not trying to bother you. Love you.
It was just a full moon Friday in social services. So.
Oh, okay.
What's been going on since we haven't seen each other in 2 weeks?
Yeah, well, we had a hurricane, you know.
There was one of those.
That kind of went through.
Man, somehow that like just got scarred out of my brain.
And it came very close to Titusville, a lot closer than I thought it was going to come.
Yep. We had a tree on fire across the street from my house. It was pretty exciting.
Wow. Now you kept power, right?
Yeah, never went out. Although the tree
Cindy, what about you?
The tree caught on fire several times.
I didn't have power for days, and then I got it back.
How many days?
3 days.
That's what I had, 3 days.
I got it back for a day and a half, and then lost it again, and I just got it back last night.
That was my fear.
What?
When it came back on, in my heart, I did not trust it. I was like, this is not
You were right not
last.
to trust it, because I made the mistake of trusting it.
Did you? Oh, no.
And refilled the fridge.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And then
why did it go back out again, you think?
Because there was a teeny tiniest bit of wind, and apparently the fix that they had done to get it back online was just like, let's get them back online.
Duct tape and a prayer.
It was, and it was not strong enough. Yeah.
Wow.
So just button, gone.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
It was cool I say it was cool. It was interesting. I always enjoy watching when it gets super, super windy. You go outside and you watch all the purple flashes off in the distance, all the transformers blow, and you're like,
all the transformers
oh,
pop.
I'm sorry for you guys, but I've still got power.
Normally, we keep it the entire time because we're on the
Really?
same grid as the airport and the fire department.
Okay.
No, we were the first people I knew that the wind barely started blowing, and we lost
And you
it.
lost power.
And we were like,
wow.
no, it's our turn.
Now, but the nice thing about it was the weather was nice.
Yes.
The weather was nice. It was, kind of cool. It wasn't.
It was something.
Yeah. It was, for me, I didn't have AC for 3 nights, and it was comfortable.
It probably would have been better if I didn't have COVID again.
Again?
Again.
Cindy, dear goodness gracious.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that 4 or 5?
That's like 11, Frank.
Is it 11?
Oh, yeah.
I have had it.
It's easier to count the days she
Yes.
hasn't had COVID.
My body
What?
just does not want immunity. And I got vaccinated and boosted, and I still keep getting
And still
it.
keep getting it.
My body's like, no.
Nope.
This is the new norm.
Wow.
It hugs the COVID.
Yeah. Yes.
It embraces it?
Come right in.
Yes, let me embrace you. Let's have a strong embrace.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Oh, Lord. All right, you guys ready to jump into today's podcast?
Yes, sir.
So today on the podcast, we are blessed to be joined by Nic Lombardo. Nick, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
Pretty good, buddy. So me and you chatted for the first time a few days ago. We've had one of your employees on the podcast in Jess a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Yep, who I met her through the Sea Turtle Healing Center. down there when we're doing our alligator research, and I'd seen your name pop up several times, and I reached out to Jess and I said, "Tell me more about Nic. Like this, he seems like he would be an amazing podcast guest." And she's like,
I'm surprised I made it to the show.
"Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what you do, sir."
So currently I own Gung-Ho Divers. It's a shark diving company. We do scuba shark dives, and now we're about to start doing some shark snorkels for people that aren't certified. I also have my nonprofit called Gung-Ho Group, which I'm looking to launch hopefully in 2025. It's a veteran nonprofit for veterans with PTSD and kind of give them the opportunity that I kind of had getting into this business, how much it changed my life and stuff. So I think it's kind of my destiny in life. I think I, feel that it's like my true purpose that I have to do.
Now, for those that who don't know, can you share a little bit about your career journey with us? How you got to where you're at diving with sharks?
So first, like when I graduated high school, I went into the Marine Corps like 3 days after I graduated. I graduated, and that was back in June of 2002. I did 4 years in the Marine Corps infantry, did 2 deployments to Iraq. So it was the invasion of Iraq. And then 11 months later, we went back when Fallujah was kicking off. Then I kind of got out of the Marine Corps and I was a little lost, because you kind of build all these things and, with your friends and that you're serving with, and no one else compares to them, so then when you go back home, everyone in the service lives in different states, so you're kind of like by yourself. And so I kind of not went off the deep end, but I definitely had struggled in life. And
yeah, you go from where you're eating and living together and you're brothers, and then you go out into the world by yourself.
Yeah, you're over there where your lives literally depend on each other. You're trauma bonding together. You're there every day. And then you just get brought back and that's it. We just send you off.
Yeah, I mean, they have at least I can only speak for the Marine Corps, but they have like when you get out of the service, I don't know if they had this prior to the, because Vietnam was with the Gulf War anyway, but I didn't know if they always had this, but it's called SEPs and TAPs, and it's kind of like a transitional thing from military life to civilian life. They bring in like big companies that, they talk about, possibly working with them and stuff, and they give you classes on, desensitize, all this kind of crazy stuff, right? That doesn't make sense when you're going through it. But it's very true. Like the term camaraderie is like, it's more than what the dictionary says. I mean, it's like I felt like I knew those, and I still to this day know these people better than my own family. So losing that is just one kind of void that you have to try to replace. Moving forward in your civilian career. So it could be challenging to some people, not all people, but it was for me.
So after your time in the military, what steps did you take from there?
After the military, I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't really have the, I was in the infantry, so I wasn't anything, technical where I had like a trade type thing. And the thought of college at the time when I first got out, I wasn't interested in that. I thought I was going to go be a contractor, like an overseas contractor, and that never panned out. And eventually, when my first job, I was like actually an apprentice for a plumbing company, which didn't last too long. The reason I got the job is I told them I was good at digging holes, but true story.
Yeah.
But eventually I kind of done a bunch of things. And really it was just trying to find that void from the Marine Corps, because in the Marine Corps you have, well, I mean, I guess any service branch, but like for me personally, I started from the bottom and worked my way up, and I became, like a squad leader in the infantry. And and that holds a lot of not merit, but just decision making, and you're doing a lot of like things at an extremely young age, and your responsibility level is so high, where it was hard to come back and just like, okay, well now you're out of the Marine Corps. That's all aside. You have to be like a regular dude. It was very difficult for me, and so I went through different types of thoughts in my head, and I wasn't thinking right, and eventually I decided to go out to Los Angeles to see my cousin, and I got into executive protection, and I thought that would be like, all right, I'm protecting celebrities and this and that. It's so cool, but it really is not that cool. But that didn't work, and I kind of just bounced around. So it was a very, for like 10 years in my life after the service, it was pretty hit or miss type thing.
You were name dropping some names on me too that you were doing executive protection for. It. I was like, wow, okay, you were in it. You were in it.
Yeah, the people that I provided a service to, which I don't know them personally or anything like that, but they, when Britney Spears was in rehab, I was with her for 9 days, in Promises in Calabasas. And then I worked with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie for 2 different weekends. At the one weekend I was at their house in Los Feliz, which they were building a new house there. And then when they adopted their son from Vietnam, they ran away from Los Angeles and went to their place in Santa Barbara. So I spent a weekend up there with them. And just, I wasn't like with them like, what you see on TV. I was like a state security type thing. So I was, the whole idea was like out of sight, out of mind. They didn't want their kids to, know that there's people protecting them type thing,
That
It
makes
was mostly
sense.
for like paparazzi.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
it's not glorious by any means. I basically sat from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. staring at the ocean, which was cool. But
well, obviously at that point you realized, okay, plumbing's not my thing. Personal security is not my thing. What leads you to the next step? Where do you go from there?
so from that point, I came back. I was married at the time. I got married when I was in the Marine Corps, and it didn't work out. I filed for divorce, and I had to go back to Pennsylvania to finalize it. And then I got kind of caught up in the same stuff, and just not doing what I should do, and I was drinking, and I just didn't care about things. And my father told me to move down to Florida, so he sent me a credit card in the mail because I had no money, and I went down to Florida and made it down there. And then I started living with him, and I got a job doing security at a strip club, actually. And and then I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And while I was working security, I saw an ad to be a stockbroker. So I was like, oh, this is what I'll do. I'll be a stockbroker. And I got got my interview. They've hired me because they'll hire anyone. And I went through it, passed my Series 7, passed my Series 63, became a licensed broker. And I'm like, you know what? I should probably do this on Wall Street. So I went back to New York immediately after I passed all my tests, and then got a job at a boutique firm on Wall Street. And I was a stockbroker for almost 3 years, I guess.
And what was that like?
It was honestly, I miss it. I miss times of it because it was very exciting. The first year and a half, I made zero money. So it was like I was eating ramen noodles every day. And then when I realized, when you learn the business, you're talking to people that are successful. So you're calling business owners that have been in business for 20 plus years, and here I am, like a 20-some-year-old kid, trying to tell them they should invest all this money in this particular stock. So it takes you have to learn how to sell, and it was definitely very exciting because when you can convince someone to to open an account with you, it's more, they don't even care about the stock at that point. They're buying you. And that alone is powerful. So I thought that was like what was really going to like change my life, you know? And I have a couple brothers that were in the military too. And at that time, when I was working as a stockbroker, my baby brother Joey was going to Afghanistan for the first time. And I'm sitting here like selling dreams to people essentially. And here my little brother is going to Afghanistan. And I'm like, he has no idea what this is like. So I'm like, I found myself at work watching, you know, YouTube videos on Afghanistan and like learning about Afghanistan because I've never been there before. And I was like, I have to go back. I have to go with my brother. And so I decided February 9th, 2010, I resigned as a stockbroker, and I was a little heavy to go back into the Marine Corps. So I had to train. So I went to like CrossFit. I did all this stuff, dropped like 20 pounds in like a month and a half. And I joined a reserve unit that was activated to go to Afghanistan, which wasn't with my brother, but I just felt like I had to do that. So then I went to Afghanistan we did a workup first. I went to Afghanistan for 7 months with the Reserve Infantry Battalion. And then after I came back, my brother, who was still in the Marine Corps, he's like, hey, you know, the GI Bill covers flight training. And I'm like, oh, sweet. I was like, he's like, we should be helicopter pilots. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it, man. So he was still in the Marine Corps and I was like getting out. So I stayed in California. Because my reserve unit, I got stuck in California and he was in 29 Palms and I was in Camp Pendleton. So I kind of stayed out there with some friends. And then my brother and I went to Arizona to this flight school that accepted the GI Bill to learn how to fly. And like we did it, we signed up and everything. And he couldn't start at the same time because he had to go on another deployment and then he was getting out. So I started before him and, you know, fast forward things, I became a helicopter pilot. And then I worked since 2012 to last September as a helicopter pilot.
That's amazing. Well, so
Yeah,
that must have been, you must have had a lot of that you really enjoyed because that was something you stuck with for quite a long time. And that has to be quite freeing to be up there and be able to kind of fly around and buzz people around back and forth.
Yeah, it was very the act of flying was so incredible. It like all the other things is everything in life turns into a job, you know. Like you could like people will come like, oh, you fly helicopters, it's so awesome. And it's like, yeah, you do, but you know, when you're doing it every single day, you have a different perspective on it over time. But like every once in a while it would hit you and you're flying the skyline in New York City, you know, on the reg. And you're like, wow, this is crazy that I'm getting paid to do this. But I did enjoy it, and that was the first point where I thought like that was, you know, like after, you know, now I've been out of the service for a while, I'm flying, I feel like my life's getting better, but there was still this missing gap in my life, you know, and like I just wasn't really happy flying. I love flying, but like the whole thing of working with a bunch of wealthy people, there's other things involved with that. So like, you know, you're on their schedule. So like you can't plan like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, let's go to dinner tonight. Like I'm on call. So like that, doing that for years and years and years and living on that like other people's schedule, it kind of, you know, disrupts things at times, you know?
Definitely. I understand a little bit of that. I've lived on alligator schedules for quite a long time, so yeah.
Yeah, Jessica was telling me about that.
Yeah, I've done that
You
24/7
relocate
for a
them,
long
right?
time. Well, yeah, we do cancer research with them, so yeah, it's a whole lot of things, but you have to be up and ready to go whenever they're up and they want to go, which is usually all hours of the weird night. So yeah, they never keep the schedule that you want to keep. It's usually when you want to go somewhere or do something with someone. There's an alligator in a weird spot.
You should have sent them an email. They probably will listen. You know?
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, need a
Yeah.
broad spectrum outreach for alligators. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably what we're missing. Well, okay, so this brings us from this point where you've stopped flying to onto what you're doing now.
Yeah. So basically, I've been a helicopter pilot. My last flight was September 12th, of not this, I guess it was 2023, was my last flight as a helicopter pilot. But prior to that, back in 2017, my brother got married in Belize, and so he had like a wedding there, and the whole family flew out there, and they had scuba diving at the resort, and I got certified back in Pennsylvania in 2000. Got my open water certification, which I loved, but then 2 years later I went in the Marine Corps, and like life took over and whatever, and I forgot about it. And so I was like, oh, I'll go scuba diving. So I went with my mom. She did a Discover Scuba, and I just, I don't want to say they gave me like a reactivate or anything like that, but they just basically said I was certified. So I went diving, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I stopped doing this, because it felt really good. So that was in October of 2017. November 2017, I flew down to Florida, got my advanced and my nitrox. And the instructor that I had was telling me about shark dives. I'm like, yo, you're crazy. 'Cause, back, I grew up with Jaws, so like I've always loved sharks, but like I was scared of them. I'm like I didn't want to go in the ocean and like I feel like you go in the ocean and then you get attacked right away. So I thought to myself, like, I need to do this. So I basically came back down to Florida, and I booked with a company in Jupiter and did a shark dive. And I was just, for that whole month prior, I watched like shark attack videos, which I don't recommend doing. I watched like literally every day. I was glued to it. I'm like, oh my God. So when I first jumped in and I'm on a shark dive, I was like, I thought as soon as I hit the water, I was going to get attacked. Like, that's how like I worked myself up. And then I realized, that transition where you feel like you actually see the sharks and you're like, wow, this is unbelievable. And scuba diving alone is extremely therapeutic. And diving with sharks, like apex predators, it just like completely like changed me, and I was like instantly hooked. And that's the only thing I could possibly think about. So then I started diving. I would come down to Florida like multiple times a year to do the shark dives. And then COVID came, and I lost my job as a helicopter pilot because the owners that I worked with, I worked corporate. They sold the helicopter. They wanted to leave the city. So they gave me this severance package, and I'm like, I'm going to go down to Florida. And I got my instructor certification and started working as an instructor. And as soon as I got my instructor, I applied for the job that the company that I would go with every year that Jessica used to work at, Emerald Charters, to be a feeder, or like to be a part of anything in that company, because I wanted to like work my way up and this and that. I got the job doing that, and as a deckhand, so I was on the boat, and I went through that whole process and did all the things that you don't want to do. And they gave me the opportunity to get in the water and be a safety diver. I started working my way up, and then eventually one of the feeders was moving away, so I basically got hooked up, and I was able to take their shifts, and became a feeder. And at some point, as I'm working as a feeder, my employer that I flew helicopters with calls me up and is like, hey, do you want to fly a Sikorsky helicopter? And I'm like looking at my life, and I'm like, I'm diving with sharks every single day, and this is amazing. And this is the only thing I want to do. And now he's calling me like it was like a year later, and he's like, you want to fly? And then he told me the salary and everything, and I was like, oh.
Hard to say
Part of
no
my
to.
language. I don't know. So I was like, oh man, this is tough. I was like, can I think about it? So I finally agreed to it. I sold myself back to the flying. But in the negotiations, I said, listen, I live in Florida. I want to stay here. And if I can work, and then certain times of the month, I can come back down to Florida, because I still want to do this job. So I did the job, and I was basically living two lives. I was flying helicopters for this billionaire family. And when they were out of town, I would fly down to Florida and work as a shark feeder. And it wasn't until my boss called me. He's like, hey, I need you to come back this weekend. And it wasn't scheduled. It was like kind of random. And I'm like, but I have a charter. I'm supposed to like feed sharks right now. And I realized of what this whole thing did to me, as far as feeding sharks and being a shark handler. It just completely changed my life. It's the only job in my life that filled the void from the Marine Corps. The
That's
only job.
awesome.
And it was because I realized is because I was going in the water and I had to survive. And that alone, and you're swimming amongst apex predators, something that could totally destroy you, and to develop a relationship in the water and actually hand feed a shark did so much to me. It just completely changed my whole life.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now you've taken this from the next step, and you have your own diving group now too, correct?
Wait, can you say that one more time?
You've started your own diving group from this too, correct?
Yeah. So basically, when I was working for this company, I'm like, I have to like when I realized of, like the change that happened to my life, like just in every aspect of my life. Like I was always searching and searching and searching and trying to like find my purpose. And then when I found it, I realized that it wasn't my purpose. I mean, it is my purpose, but it healed me. It completely, like all the bad moments of my life and everything that I was holding on to, it like it almost like it like soothed me, where I like all those things like I was able to talk about, I was able to like be okay with, and I was able to deal with it. Before it was like I locked it in a box and put it in my closet. Like we ain't talking about that. And diving with shark, um, in the capacity that I was, it just completely just like regenerate, like just redefined everything about my life. And I realized I'm like, if I feel this way about like what this did for me, like I can help other veterans, because like I always wanted to be successful, and I chased money. I was a stockbroker, I did real estate, I did all these things trying to find my purpose. And I think with starting Gung-Ho Divers and Gung-Ho Group, the nonprofit, is my chance at life to not only do what I love, but also help people. Because I feel like if you're just going for money and all the things that I did prior to this, I was like, oh, I want to be rich. And like for what I'm doing now, to like what's more powerful than being able to make a living doing what you love, but more importantly helping someone else overcome something. I mean, I don't think there's anything better than that.
It's very special, without a doubt. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got I think you found your calling.
Yeah, no, I definitely did. I struggled explaining it a little bit, but it's
So
clear.
now, when you do you how do veterans find you?
Well, right now, so like I have the nonprofit, I'm still awaiting the 501c3, so I have kind of halted. Like I haven't really advertised the nonprofit part, which
Oh, okay.
is, so there's Gung-Ho Group, which is a nonprofit, and then Gung-Ho Divers is the for-profit company. Because I originally started the nonprofit first, so like this is what I want to do. I'm going to help people. I'm going to do this full time. I'm going to have every investor in the world put money into this, because there's a couple key topics. There's veteran suicide, people love veterans, ocean conservation, shark conservation, all that. You add those three together, it's pretty powerful. Not to every single person out there, but I think more often than not, you're going to find someone that is in a financial position to say, you know what, I care about these things and I would love to support this organization.
And you have
So
you have the unique thing too, where you've lived it, and it's helped you, and you
yeah,
want to help others.
I,
You
I'm
want to help
basically the
others do
pilot
what you've
program.
done.
Yeah, I'm the pilot program. I like, I mean, I still have to do a pilot program where I bring in a group of veterans and let them go through the class that I created. But I mean, the whole thing is of what it did to me and how this whole thing changed my life. Like I am so infatuated with this, of what I want to do. It like disrupts a lot of other things in my life, but I don't care, because I mean I really want this to go from what it is now. And then once I get that 501c3, I feel like I'm a caged pit bull right now. Because I don't want to like sit there and try to advertise and throw it out there. And I can't really, it really depends on, donations and stuff like that. And if I can't offer them that tax-free thing, I just feel like it's premature right now. So
you're
I'm
kind
just going
of in a
through.
holding pattern, what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. So, and when I started the nonprofit, that was the only thing I started. It was the first thing that I created. And I made my pitch deck, and I did everything I had to do, applied for the 501c3. And then I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how am I going to like, really, sell this? I'm really not known. I don't have a boat. I have nothing. So that's when Gung-Ho Divers came about. And I started Gung-Ho Divers. It took me a few months to find a boat. I bought the boat. And then that's when I left the other company and I went full time with Gung-Ho Divers. And I really kind of put my whole life on the line for this. And we've been in business for over a year now. We hit our year mark in September. And back in a few months ago, Jessica came over and started working with me. So, who's a great asset. But during that time, I felt that I needed to establish a platform. So if I went to investors and I said, listen, this is what I'm doing right now. Here's my company. And this is what I like to do for veterans because of X, Y, and Z and how this changed my life, and then give them my story and all that kind of stuff, So, I mean, that's what right now in my mind, what I'm thinking and how I'm going to go about it. It could possibly change because I'm still learning a lot,
You are somebody that is in a very unique position to be starting something like this, though, because you have what a lot of people don't have, and that is your why for this. A lot of people have this idea that they want to start a nonprofit, they want to do the good, they want to do the work, but they don't have a personal attachment to what it is they're doing, and you do. You know why this is needed. You know how this can change lives.
Yeah, and I think that's why Gung-Ho Divers is still in business and we're growing, is because it's my passion, because I feel like I owe it,
Yeah.
Like it changed my entire life doing this. And if you asked me 10 years ago, like, are you going to own a shark diving company? I would laugh at you probably. I'm like, you're crazy, But now when the weather's bad and we're not diving like it is right now, like I am super depressed because all I feel like I want to be is in the water with sharks. So I think it's good, and I think bringing Jessica on was really because I'm just me. I'm just a guy who loves what I do, but I don't have the background on, I'm not a biologist. I didn't go to school for marine biology or anything like that. I know shark behavior because of since 2017 of me doing it as a customer and then eventually as a safety diver and a feeder and stuff like that. But I really am incorporating. My goal is to kind of create Gung-Ho Divers, reinvent Gung-Ho Divers into more of an experience for all those people that are scared of sharks and like, oh, there's no way I'll do that, because those are the best customers when you bring them in the water and they're calling you 50 times, before they even show up, and they're asking all these questions like, oh, what about this? What about that? And then they get in the water and they realize that these apex predators are not trying to eat them. It like really changes the agenda of what people think about them. So I need people that are better than me to kind of talk about, sharks and everything about them and the knowledge, and teach them professionally where they have like more of a background in it, so they can, emphasize on certain things. Is I basically would only consider myself, I mean, in reality, I sling bait, but I understand the behaviors of sharks that I deal with that are in front of me, but I would never say that I'm an expert. So I have a lot to learn, and I'm trying to kind of build this team of people that, can kind of complete the puzzle. So where, Gung-Ho Divers and Gung-Ho Group becomes indestructible.
Well, Nick, let me say a couple of things here. First of all, thank you for your service to our country. And if you can please let everybody know how to find Gung-Ho Divers, if they want to reach out to you and find out more information about your business or go on a dive, where do they find you guys at?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's www.gunghodiving.com. And then we also are on social media. We have Instagram and Facebook, and that's Gung-Ho Divers, basically.
Yep, and I'll make sure I
if you
tag
just
you
type-
guys and all that stuff too.
No, I appreciate that, Frank. And we just started a YouTube channel because I think we're looking to, like I said, like my thoughts of where I want to go are, it's going to take time, but I created a YouTube channel because I feel like we could put some educational things on there. So we have a YouTube channel, we have TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, but I would say more Instagram is probably our most active social platform.
Man, if you guys could have a live camera on the boat that's going whenever
Yeah.
you could sell subscriptions to that all day. I would buy a subscription to that to watch what's happening underneath the boat as you guys are diving. That'd be great.
Yeah, I know they do that for on Shark Week and stuff, and they have the line and everything. We're not set up for that right now, but I mean, hopefully in time that we can become
The source.
a company that can deliver certain things.
The source for all things sharks. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, hopefully that would be cool.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Really honored to have you on here. Thank you for sharing your story. And again, thank you for your service to our country. And buddy, we look forward to chatting with you again here soon.
I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me, and you guys have a good one. All right.
You too, Nick. Thank you, sir.
All right, bye.
What an awesome fella.
Oh yeah, wow.
So many times we end these interviews, and my first thought is, I feel like an underachiever. I have accomplished nothing.
Well, it's beautiful when you hear, when him and I were talking earlier this week, I was telling you guys a little bit about it. It's beautiful when you hear somebody finish a story off and it ended up the way they didn't know it was going to end up, but it ended up somewhere where it needed to be.
Right.
And he's in a good place, and it's that's all you can hope for anybody.
Oh yeah, and find something that you're passionate about, and yeah, that's great.
Yep. So many times there's people that have served our country that have trouble ever finding that, and God bless him, he found it.
Yeah.
And he's helping people through it. So, and it helped him. That's a special stuff. It's gonna get me all teary-eyed. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you guys have going on for the next 10 minutes?
Nothing. I'm not doing a thing.
Awkwardly staring at you, Frank.
Okay,
Yes.
well, I'll awkwardly stare back.
That's what we'll do.
All right, well, I guess let's wrap up the podcast then. All right, y'all, thank you for tuning in to the EEARSS podcast produced here at Terrier TV. We are averaging now between 35 and 7,500 views a week. So if you're interested in sponsoring our program, reach out to us at EEARSS.org or Alligator Rob, ROBB. There's two B's in Rob. It's a last name, not a first name. Reach out to us at alligatorrob.com and maybe drop us a message if you want to learn more about the opportunities you can have with us sponsoring us and us promoting you and your business. That was a lot of different things going at the same time in my head, and I was trying to get them all out, and it didn't quite get there, but it eventually got there. So, yeah, thank you all for tuning in to the EEARSS podcast produced here at Terrier TV, and we will catch you all next week or in about 5 minutes. Bye-bye.